I'm Chris Bussing. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to helping more people hop onto the tech sales wave and the entrepreneurship wave and ride it to more freedom and fulfillment in their life. And who better to share ideas on how we can ride that wave to fulfillment and freedom in our life than Scott Leese. This is someone that I've heard about since my Google Cloud days. One of the top performing SDRs told me about Scott and said, Chris, you got to check out his stuff. And I have. He's got an amazing newsletter. He's got an amazing course, and he's got a Surf and Sales Summit coming up in November that you guys definitely need to check out. Scott's founded companies. He's been a founding leader from a sales perspective, founded his own companies and written books and made courses, as I mentioned. So he's going to share a lot with us about how to be successful in sales and even how to create side hustles that can help you break free financially to the next level. So I'm done talking here, guys. Of course, make sure, though, before we dive in, to like the video because the YouTube algorithm loves that too, and we'll show this video to more people who could benefit from the message, and subscribe to the channel. But Scott, thanks so much for joining. How's your day going so far?
We're right at the end of it, man. So I've had a pretty good day, but excited to kind of unwind here in a little bit.
100%. And so I'm looking forward to just diving into one great topic. Why do you love sales? Like, why is it such a great profession? Excuse me, from your perspective.
I think because it doesn't discriminate in the sense that you could come from any background, starting at any point in time in your life. And the better you do, the more you earn, the more successful you will be. And there's actually not a lot of professions like that. My brother is an engineer, and years ago, I remember him complaining, saying that no matter if the work that he did was better than the next person, they got paid just as much as he did. And he didn't get paid more if he got more done and this kind of thing. And that never made sense to me, right? And so you can start right now, wherever you are. You can leave whatever profession you're in. If you can figure out how to sell, you've created employment security for yourself forever. You can sell products for somebody else. You can sell products for yourself. It'll help you on your entrepreneurial journey. And so I just love that it gives everybody the chance to become something special.
And this channel's really focused on tech sales, right? It's lucrative, it's dynamic. There's a lot of good places to sell, though, like solar and medical devices as well. And would you consider yourself just a passionate sales guy across the board, or do you have a leaning towards tech sales in particular? What's your thoughts?
Well, I've spent almost the majority of my career in tech sales specifically. I was a VP of sales a half dozen times, and most of my consulting business is working in SaaS companies and tech and things like that. So that's more of my focus. It's also more kind of interesting to me. It moves at a fast pace. Something that was amazing 5 years ago is irrelevant today. So it forces you to kind of keep your skills fresh and keep learning rather than kind of sitting back and resting on, relationships that you've had for 20 years in a particular field that is, has innovation come along a little slower. So for me, it's the place to be.
Yeah, and that's been my experience as well. I don't have nearly as much tenure in this space as you do, but it's been a fun ride so far, and things are always changing, like you said. And a lot of people on this channel, I mean, really most of the audience, they're either early in their tech sales career or they're looking to break in. And some are teachers that are looking to become SDRs or bankers, to your point, that are looking for a bigger financial upside for their skill set. Do you have any high-level tips for folks that are trying to break into tech sales and for the SDR role and they don't have any experience today?
Well, I don't think you need experience to break in. You just have to kind of apply to the right place, network with the right people. You've got to align yourself with the right company and the right leader who is willing to take a chance on folks. I'm a big believer in hiring somebody who can do versus somebody who has done. And so, I steer away from, if I was somebody looking to break in, I'd steer away from companies or leaders that I, was reading job descriptions and reading some of their content or listening to them talk about how, they like to focus on people who've been in the game for a while and stuff like that. I just don't go after those ones. I'm trying to find somebody who's like, listen, I don't care about what you've done before, who you've been in the past. I care about who you are right now and who you're looking to become and what you're willing to do along the way, right? And that's what you try to optimize for. So I think don't get discouraged if you're coming across people that are looking for experience. I think you just got to diversify where you're looking. You might have to look a little harder rather than looking at a couple jobs. You might have to look at 10, 20 jobs. But what you're really looking for, like I said, is somebody who's willing to take a chance on you. Because I got news for you. Whoever's interviewing you at one point in time, they had no experience either. That's important to remember.
Yeah, you remind me in some ways of Kyle Coleman, who's another inspiring thought leader like yourself in the business development world. And I could just feel his passion. And I was like, Kyle, you're the type of leader that I'd want to work for. And I could say that I don't really know you well, but just based on an answer, you're the type of leader I'd want to work for. And I think a lot of this audience would want to work for. And it sounds like they just have to take some time sifting through the mud to find the right companies with the right leaders who are willing to take a chance and see someone for their potential and their capacity to grow and for their underlying character traits. And so tell me if that's, tracking based on what you said, but do you have any other tips on finding the right type of company? Like, are there specific verticals, or is really finding the right leaders the most important factor?
I don't really know if there's the right vertical or not, but there could be something to be said for the level of complexity in a particular product, right? Something that is very complex, or an organization that's selling a whole suite of products, a highly technical sale, those might not be the right fits for somebody who's just breaking in. So I might be looking for something that's a little more transactional, a little faster sales cycle, potentially less buying kind of committee involved, no need for a sales engineer, right? Those things can make it a little bit easier for you. Another thing that you should do is you should be becoming a part of every kind of sales and revenue go-to-market community that you can. There's no reason for you to be going about this stuff all by yourself, right? And the days of kind of blindly applying for jobs through a job board or careers page, that doesn't really work anymore, right? And so the best thing you can do is build up the size of your network and say, hey, Chris, it looks like you work at XYZ company. Seems like a pretty good place to work. Are you connected to the hiring manager over there? I'm interested in applying for this particular role, and see if you can't find a way to get referred in. That's going to be much more successful than just hitting the submit button on an application.
Amen. That is so true. I think networking is an opportunity to create opportunities for yourself, even with no experience. I wanted to get your guidance on what you think those networking notes should look like. I think you just said it, but should they just be simple and conversational and not overthink? Because I'm kind of an overanalyst where I'd want to do a lot of research on the company and the individual and tailor it and flatter them. But do you think that just keep it simple?
Yes. My personal opinion is the more you do all of that stuff, I'm just thinking to myself, geez, this guy is putting way too much stock into this one particular opportunity. All right.
Wow.
And I don't think that you need to do that. It comes across as weird to me, frankly. If you just send me a message like we're two guys at a bar having a beer and you're just like, hey, man, this company looks pretty sweet. I don't know if you're connected to the hiring manager, but if you are, I'd love to apply there. Do you think you can kind of hook me up? That's how normal people talk every single day. I don't need a freaking essay on why this company is everything you've ever dreamed about and why you're the perfect fit. You don't know that. Every company has warts. Every company has things that don't run smoothly and make no sense. And every candidate is flawed in some particular way. I don't need to hear about why you're the perfect candidate, right? So I think people just hype it up way too much. And then when you do that, to your point, Chris, you end up overthinking it and you move slow. So while you're thinking of all those things, there's somebody else out there who's moving at the speed of light.
Wow.
Who doesn't care about all that stuff, and who's going to get the jump on you.
Scott, that's definitely a paradigm shift for me, even being in this industry for about 9 years. So, even the way maybe I reached out to you for an interview, which I appreciate you coming on. It's a great opportunity for all of us to learn. Could have been pretty lengthy. So the message, guys, is for those who are live, and thank you for showing up, is keep it short and to the point and talk as if you'd be in a bar, like keep it conversational. And so when you're networking with these individuals, and maybe it's an SDR or AE that could refer you, I guess, I mean, you could be talking directly with a recruiter or hiring manager that could decide on hiring you. Do you have any guidance on approaching that conversation and maximize it and build some trust, get the referral?
Well, I mean, it depends what our outcome is. I mean, you don't want to be hyping yourself up, like I said, and selling yourself into an opportunity that you may or may not be qualified for or may not enjoy. You should be interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So the things that you should be asking are about, what is it like to actually work there? Does the product actually work? Are the customers happy that have purchased the product? Right? Are the people who are currently doing your job experiencing success? Right? What are the goals in the career path? What is the career path? Therefore, how can I set goals in terms of building a long-term career here? Or is that not an option? Should I not think of it like that? Right? How much money do we have in the bank? If you're looking at startups, you don't want to end up going someplace that has 4 months worth of capital left in the bank, and then you're out on the street 4 months later again. You want to know, how healthy this business is, and are they going to be around for a while? What kind of tools do they use? It's no different than, let's say you're trying to figure out where you're going to go to school and play football or something like that. You could go to school A, which has like $100 million athletic training facility, or you go to school B that has like a middle school gym locker from the 1980s, right? Which place is more interesting to go to? Which place is going to help you optimize your skills and your talent more? Probably the place that is invested in tools and training and stuff like that, right? So these are some of the things that I would be really focused on asking, whether it's a hiring manager or somebody who might refer you in, things like that.
So we're going to talk about how to sell effectively once you break in and accelerate your career, how to move into leadership. I know you could speak to all these topics, and even diversifying our income beyond the W-2. But I had one other question on this topic of breaking in. Just any high-level interview tips. This is so broad, but if you really want to maximize this song and dance of going through, you got a recruiter screening, and you're going to obviously interview with hiring managers. You might have a cold call role play. Are there particular things, whether it's a mindset perspective or how to, prepare and answer questions effectively, ask great questions? Like, what would you, like a nugget or two?
Well, I just listed out, a number of questions that I'd be prepared to ask somebody. And I did say, flip the script a little bit and remember that you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. And the last tip I would have would be, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I can't tell you how many times people are all geeked up about an interview and this is the place that they're going to work, and it doesn't pan out, and they have nobody else in the pipeline.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing?
So,
you have to treat this just like any other sales gig, right? You've got to have a number of opportunities just in case some fall through to make sure you land the deal that you need, right? So I would be interviewing nonstop. I don't care if I have 3 interviews this week. I'd be trying to get 3 more, right? And I know through playing the numbers that if I've got enough opportunities lined up, something's going to pop, right? I'm going to vibe, and I'm going to align with somebody. I'm going to get better at the questions that I ask. I'll get better at answering questions that are asked of me. So I think people get too focused on one particular opportunity, and they sort of stop prospecting in the sense of finding other open roles.
Yeah, that's definitely so true. I've seen, working with different individuals trying to break into tech, their hearts have been broken. It's like you find someone that you're falling in love with, and they're amazing. They've got a great personality. they really are into you, and then you've flown out to Denver and it just seems like it goes great, and then they go in another direction. And to your point, Scott, I've just seen folks get to the final round, have their heart broken, and I think what you're saying is just cast a wide net and keep going and don't get too attached. So really good advice on how to break into tech sales. And I wanted to shift to talking about once you're in, how to be effective. I noticed I was listening to some of your podcasts. They're really great. And one was with, I think it's a Leese Archer. And I think the title or one of the themes was your income level will never exceed your self-worth. Any thoughts on that statement and that topic?
Well, I think it's really hard for most people to comprehend what it's like initially to make a six-figure income. And then I think when people get at the six-figure mark, it becomes incomprehensible to think about hitting the seven-figure mark.
Yeah. It's
just not something that most people have experience with, right? And so you limit yourself by thinking, wow, I've done good. I've hit this ceiling. This is my maximum potential. Well, you're not going to be able to get beyond that if you think like that, right? If you're not always looking for different angles, different streams of income, different career path, improving upon your skills and so forth. And that was kind of the theme of that episode, I mean, I can remember being in college and thinking to myself, if I get a job that pays me 50, 60 grand a year for the rest of my life, like that's fantastic. I'd be stoked on that. Had no comprehension that there was ever going to be anything more than that out there for me. And then I can remember being a VP of sales and making 250, 300K and thinking, I have reached the pinnacle. Mm-hmm. There's no way that I'll ever do any better than this. Right. And having to break down those barriers and those limiting beliefs takes a lot of work. It takes work. You got to talk to other people. You got to be willing to, admit some hard truths to yourself. You've got to change some behaviors and habits potentially. You got to change where you put your time and where you put your focus. It requires you, like I said before, to keep learning, keep growing, keep trying new things. It requires you to be brave and courageous and take some risks. Right. And the people that have made it to these places, I have often found so far in my life that they're not all that smarter than me.
Yeah.
They don't work all that much harder than me. Huh. They just blindly trust themselves. They're willing to take big swings and chances. They're not worried about the consequences, but they see things a little clearer. They decide things a little faster, right? And they're around other people who also move and operate that way, right? And so, on some level, maybe our parents were right when they told us, like, you got to be careful who you're hanging out with there, son, right? You become who you hang out with. It's pretty true, actually. You hang out with if your five closest friends are all people who've started from nothing and are all now doing $1 million a year, don't you think you'd learn something by hanging out with them? Something different than you learn by your five friends who all work at the gas station still? I think so.
And that's like welcome to my TED Talk. I got to break that into a mini clip after this. It's amazing. Who we surround ourselves with is really important. And I was going to ask you, it seems like quick decision-making is really important. We were talking about that networking note. It's like, don't overthink it, get it out there, apply to different companies. You're saying people that reach a really high level of success, trust themselves and make quick decisions. Could you speak a little more to that? And from there, by the way, I do want to get your thoughts on the top sales skills to develop starting out in your career. And maybe that's one of them, but could you maybe hit on the decision-making piece first a little bit more?
Well, I just think people tend to overanalyze things and you elongate this delta between an idea you have and taking action over it, right? And I kind of vowed a number of years ago that when I had an idea, I was going to do something about it, or I was going to decide to throw the idea away. So if you and I came up with an idea right now and we were going to, I don't know, create an event somewhere, right, and we were going to do this, I would be trying to push us to take action on that. I think most people sit around and think about it. They talk themselves into it. They talk themselves out of it. They think about all the things that are going to go wrong and so forth. And that's just wasted motion. It's wasted energy, you know? So it has to start, though, with some self-confidence, right? And belief in yourself that you're good enough and you're going to be able to pull this off. And then I think if you fall back on what's the worst thing that can happen, I actually think the worst thing that can happen to us will never actually come to fruition, right? If you start this job, you get into sales and you fail out of sales, your life is not over. You got a number of skills, presumably, that you can fall back on and pivot career. You could also get back on the horse and try again in sales job number 2. You're not dead. You still have your health. You still have your friends and family and loved ones, hopefully, right? Losing those things is actually the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
So if you can operate from this place of like, well, you know, the worst thing is actually not that bad. Like, in the grand scheme of my life, who fucking cares if I miss my quota or not? Now, all of a sudden, you're free. And when you're free, you move through the world with a lack of fear. And that confidence pushes you forward. People are drawn to that. They're attracted to that. And that's how you become more successful. You just stop overthinking things. And, you know, makes it sound easy. I know it's not easy for some people, but you just have to practice it. It's like a muscle you have to work to get stronger.
So before getting to the what I alluded to, the sales skills to develop, obviously you have a lot of freedom in your life that you've created, and you've broken free to. I was looking at your like multi-million-dollar consultancy business, and it's amazing. Were there things that cause breakthroughs in your life to create personal transformation and freedom? Like, did you ever do a seminar? Was there a book? Was it just a gradual thing over time? But were there any like key inflection points that caused breakthroughs for you?
The biggest inflection point for me was getting sick at age 23 and having to spend 4 years in the hospital fighting for my life. Wow. You know, I had 9 major surgeries, 4 emergency life-saving surgeries. Had to kick off of opioids after being in the hospital for so long. So I never had a career or job until really I was 27 years old. But I was not a normal 27-year-old at that point in time. I had been through hell and back. I had fought with everything that I had to even have the opportunity to be on a podcast today, to go get a job of any kind. So my sense of urgency was different than other people. My sense of appreciation for every opportunity that we get in this life was different than other people. And my ability to fall back on this concept of, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? I miss my quota and they fire me from this sales job. What the fuck do I care? I just fought 4 years to get out of the hospital to even have the opportunity to fail, right? That was a huge turning point for me. And just saying, I'm not going to waste any more time. Me kind of holding back and not being confident, not being my full self. There's no point in that, right? I need to take advantage of every chance that comes my way. And if I want to try to do something special, I want to try to do it now.
What an inspiration, man. I got chills. Gosh. And now we're going to transition to prospecting skills.
Smooth transition.
So, wow, that's amazing. But I'm glad, hey, we didn't save that inspiration to the end, and I'm sure there's more that will come. But when it comes to, you break in the SDR role, and I'd love to get your take on it rather than me preaching into the audience about it. Like, what's the SDR role about? What does it take to succeed? What are some of your tips to start to develop some skills to be successful?
Well, it's really just about creating opportunity. It's about finding the right accounts and the right contacts to reach out to. It's about understanding what's going on in their business, what challenges and pains that they have, and being able to position yourself as somebody who might be able to help solve some of their problems. It's about prospecting skills. really. It's about starting conversations. It's about hard work. It's about hustle. It's about being strategic. It's about leveraging a network of who you know. It's about creativity. And it is probably one of the hardest roles in business today.
Wow. Yeah, that's a mic drop at the end. What makes it one of the hardest roles in business from your perspective?
Well, if you think about the traditional ways that we've done sales and prospecting, they've gone by the wayside. Maybe not entirely, but they're going that direction. Back in the day, a long time ago, you used to walk around the neighborhood and knock on everybody's doors and sell them vacuums. That doesn't really happen anymore. Then we evolved to flying around the country everywhere and doing all business meetings, in person. Well, that doesn't scale very much, right? I can't be in Vancouver and New York at the same time. So then we started doing business over the telephone. Guess what? Nobody really picks up the telephone anymore. Every time my phone rings, I immediately wonder, now what? Who's trying to sell me something? What kind of bullshit scam is this? I don't get excited and think, oh, my buddy Chris is calling me. Let's see what's going on. I'm like, who's trying to sell me fucking new home warranty? Okay. So nobody picks up their phone anymore. So that's going down. So then we move to email. Well, I don't know what your inbox looks like, but I get hundreds of messages a day. Tons of them are spam. A lot of them are from people that I don't know. So I really don't reply to the ones that I don't know who sent it to me. Right? And email open rates and response rates have gone down. So then we started using LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Well, the LinkedIn inbox is a mess. Everybody in there is asking if you need, overseas developers, or, hey, Chris, have you ever thought about starting your own franchise? You'd be great. We've identified you as a killer Allstate or Sonic Burger,
You really think so?
franchise owner. Yeah, I did a lot of research. You'd be the right one. So who wants to deal with all that kind of spam, right? So the problem is noise. There is so much noise on the end of somebody who could be a potential buyer. How do you cut through that noise? And for those reasons, I think prospecting and therefore an SDR role is like the hardest role there is right now.
That makes a lot of sense. And I noticed another podcast, I forget who the guest was, on unique gifting and personalization. And I don't know if you remember that one. I forget who the guest was, but do you think like those are things that we could be doing to cut through the noise? I'd just love to get your thoughts on how to really stand out in it.
Let me ask you, Chris, what is like one of your passions or hobbies outside of work?
I really enjoy fitness, and I love the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, let's stop right there. Stop right there. I have everything that I need. Okay.
Yep.
Now, imagine I'm trying to get a hold of you, and I've done some research, and I just figured out that you love the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you may or may not know this, but I went to high school with Aaron Rodgers, who for a long time was Green Bay Packers quarterback, right? Now, let's just say that I know you're a Packers fan and I'm trying to get a hold of you. So I buy you a Green Bay Packers jersey, an Aaron Rodgers jersey, all right? And I put a little note in it, and I write a handwritten note that says, hey, my buddy Aaron that I went to school with wanted you to have this. He also wanted you to pick up the phone the next time I call because you might be having some challenges with XYZ, and I'd like to help you with that. Now, is that going to stand out?
You can't beat that. That is so unique.
So
where do I sign up? That's incredible.
These are some of the creative things that, companies, gifting platform companies like Sendoso and Alice and stuff like that, they're trying to help sellers out because they know that just a normal phone call or a normal email is not really working the way that it used to do, right? But if I can shoot you over a $100 jersey and it's relevant to you because I know you're a Packers fan, the odds are you might be like, I don't believe it. This guy sent me a Packers jersey. This is amazing. And it's this like dorky, funny little note, like I got to take this guy's call just because, right?
Yeah, I can't believe you went to high school with Aaron Rodgers. It's amazing.
Yeah, Pleasant Valley High School, Chico, California. Google it.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, and now he's off to the Jets, right? I forget.
Yeah. But see, I wouldn't bring that part up if I was prospecting you, because I wouldn't want you to be in a down kind of mood. I'd want you to be like happy and stoked and reminiscing about the good times, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So high level. I mean, and that's actually amazing. You struck gold that you went to high school with Aaron Rodgers. Or maybe you're like also a Packer fan, or you ultimately you'd get a jersey. Are there key types of personalization that are more effective than others? And I'll volunteer a few things I've been noodling on lately. Like you have common values between your companies, or, like you notice they have a YouTube channel and you flatter them on it. Or are there specific things like aspects of personalization that are more effective than others?
Well, I think the more personal and unique and bold, the better. I mean, you could reach out to me and say, "Hey, Scott, we both have podcasts. Let's talk."
Yep.
That doesn't require much, man. Okay. But let's say somebody's watching this YouTube video today. Okay. And we're going to play like a Where's Waldo type situation. We're going to play a game right now, right? Somewhere in my background, it's not very hidden, but somewhere in my background, all right, are clues about what my favorite cocktail is. All right. So if somebody's watching this video,
Is that Casa de Azul?
that's Clase Azul. Yeah, you got
Love that, man.
Yeah.
CEO
Now,
of my company actually gave me a shot of that in Vegas on my 29th birthday. Love it. It's meaningful.
okay. So now there's the clue. You figured out what my beverage is, right? Now, why not reach out with some story about Clase Azul? Why not reach out and be like, Scott, know you're a huge Clase Azul fan. I thought of you the other day when I was in Vegas at this conference because my boss bought me a shot of Clase Azul. And then get into it. That is way more relevant to me and interesting to me than you just saying, hey, we both have a YouTube channel. We both went to Arizona State. Right? You have to go beyond these surface level things that used to be enough to show that you knew and understood somebody. Nobody cares about that anymore. I can't reach out to you, Chris, and be like, I see you have a refrigerator in your background. I also have a refrigerator. That's not going to do it. You got to dig deeper, right?
Such good real world examples. So beyond personalization, when you get to talking about why you're calling or like the value where you might be able to help, do you have any thoughts on framing why you're calling or emailing?
Well, nobody cares about you or your product or your service whatsoever until they believe that they have a problem. And you have to get them to admit that they have XYZ problem, right? And then they have to understand why it's important to solve the problem. And then they have to believe it's important to solve right now. And then and only then does somebody open up and say, hey, is this what you do? Can you help me with this? That's the framework I think that's missing, right? And I wrote about this in my book, Addicted to the Process. I call it the addiction model of selling. As somebody who's been through the recovery process myself, this is how I learned to sell. You can't just walk up to somebody who's struggling with addiction and say, hey, Chris, I've got this killer rehab facility down the road. Gorgeous location. You ready to go? You'll be like, dude, what are you talking about? I don't have a drinking problem. I don't even understand why you're bringing this up. You recoil. You're on the defensive straight away. So why do we do that when we sell? Why do I call you up and be like, hey, Chris, this is Scott from ScottLeeseConsulting.com. What I do over here is blah, 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 blah. You recoil. You're on the defensive, right? So instead, you have to approach these things inquisitively and ask questions. You have to be like, hey, Chris, I was taking a look at your website, and it doesn't look like you have a chat bot on your website. Any particular reason why? And then you're going to say something, and I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't know. Do you ever find that you're missing an opportunity or two because you didn't get back to people fast enough or engage with somebody straight away? And you're going to say, yeah, that probably has happened to us before. Now we've established now that you might have a problem like capturing leads fast enough from your website, right? That's the framework that I want people to think about is, how do I find pain? How do I build value? How do I create urgency? And then how do I discuss my solution?
Very well framed. So I was going to ask you about cold calling. Any thoughts on whether cold calling is still the most effective means of outbound?
I think it depends on who you're selling to. I think certainly there's some industries and some types of sales where it is the most effective, and it should be optimized and leaned into heavily. I think there's amazing tools out there like Orem that can help with that kind of thing. And, tools like Gong that helps with recording those calls and being able to coach people through those calls and stuff like that. But I think that there's other types of sales and industries where, like I was saying before, nobody picks up the phone.
Yeah.
If you're trying to call, I don't even have a home phone anymore. Who does? Does anybody have an office phone anymore? I don't have an office phone.
No.
I have one phone, a cell phone. It's pretty hard to get cell phones in some industries, right? So you have to figure out what channel works best for your sale and your industry. And that often requires testing at the very beginning, unless you have experience in this industry already and then you just know, right? So I might do, 1,000 phone calls, send 1,000 emails, send 1,000 DMs. And then I look and see what those results were. And if one of them is far and away superior, that's where I spend the majority of my time. So does cold calling work still? Yeah, in some industries. But my personal belief is that it's starting to work less and less and less across all industries.
Interesting. Okay. I was going to ask you, if you don't mind, like, if you were to pick up the phone and make a call, like everyone wants to know, how do you start a call? And I know there's no silver bullet in sales, right? But do you have any thoughts on how, like, if you were to do it?
Well, I just kind of did. I just kind of made one up with you, right? I said, hey, Chris,
let's
look at your website, and doesn't look like you have a chat bot on there. Any reason why? Right? So I get somebody to just pick up the phone, and then I just sort of say, hey, I was looking at something. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. I was looking at your website, or I was listening to you talk on this podcast the other day. I had a question for you. And then I just ask the question. And then I wait for their response. And then I comment a little bit. And then I probably ask another question. Right?
Yeah, no, and you did lay that out. So my bad making you repeat yourself, but it's helpful, I think, for our learning purposes. But I love how conversational it is. Your tone obviously is confident and relaxed, and you're getting them engaged from the start. My only question is, would you not say your name, or is it like, who cares who you are? You just like get.
Why does it matter? Why do they care? Do you think that they'll remember my name?
Probably not.
You know how many times I've closed deals through a whole sales cycle, and at the very end, they're like, what was your name again?
Really?
Yeah. Now this was, years ago going back, but it certainly happened. They don't care about me or who I am. They only start to care once they believe they have a problem. So it's not that I never introduce myself or I never tell anybody where I'm calling from, but why would I start off that way? Let me ask you a question, Chris. If your phone rings right now, okay, and the following words come out of my mouth. Hey, Chris, this is Scott Leese. How are you today? What do you think that call is immediately? What's your first reaction?
The sales call.
Right. So why the fuck would I introduce myself like that on a sales call?
Yeah.
Why would I do that? You're immediately on the defensive. You immediately regret picking up the phone. So why do we do that?
Yeah. I was about to tell you in the hypothetical role play, hey, I'm busy. I'm interviewing Scott Leese. All right. And you were Scott Leese, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah. But if you said that to me, I'd be like, why are you picking up the phone if you're in the middle of an interview?
Clearly you might have need. But and by the way, Corey Sutton, thanks for showing up. He said, this is verbal gold. Scott is dropping Gems, yes, 100%. And again, I will mine this interview for all the gems and make some short form out of this afterwards. But Corey and everyone who's shown up, we got 8 people right now. Thank you so much. And so, Scott, in terms of, we'll wrap up like the SDR and in selling as an IC, individual contributor, and then talk about leadership and then diversifying income. But any thoughts on the number of touches in the SDR role? I've seen metrics and studies like you need X amount of touches per day. It's a leading indicator of success. It's a numbers game. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's times where it's been a really strong emphasis on being in a numbers game, and that emphasis is starting to wane a little bit. It's really more about effectiveness now. But a lot of this depends on your total addressable market, man. Let's say you're selling to restaurants across North America. Okay.
Yeah.
How many restaurants are there? I don't know. Millions, right? Okay. Now, let's say you're selling to banks. How many banks are there? A lot less. So if you have a really small total addressable market, you can't do something like 100 touches every single day. You will annoy the hell out of your prospects and you'll absolutely burn them. You can't think of something snappy to say. You'd go through, if there was 1,000 banks in the country, which sounds high to me, 100 touches a day, you'd hit all of them every 10 days. Does that seem like a good strategy to you? No. But if I have 10 million restaurants, can I do 100 touches a day? Yeah, I probably can. Right? Because I have so many different people to talk to. So it's very specific depending on who you're selling to, how many total accounts are in your universe, right? There are statistics that show it takes like 7-8 touches to get a hold of somebody.
Yeah.
So it is a mistake to just reach out to somebody one time and then never do it again.
Yes.
But I'm not saying you should just hammer them 7 days in a row to hit those 7 touches, right? It depends on how many people you have in your account base that you're prospecting into. That would really determine like how many touches in what period of time. And that's how you formulate sequences.
So it's ultimately a quality over quantity game, but being persistent in the follow-ups, not just giving up after one touch.
It's quality over quantity, but that doesn't mean quantity doesn't matter. Because I don't want to hear somebody tell me, hey, Scott, it's all about quality. And they're doing one phone call a day. You know what I mean? It's actually about quality at scale. How many quality touches can we do? Because if we could comprehensively do 100 quality touches at scale, and we're selling to restaurants and there's 10 million of them, phenomenal. I would assume we'd hit our goals and our targets. It's just really hard to do 100 quality touches. Right?
Yeah. There's some interesting companies now with this boom in generative AI that are building on top of ChatGPT. And one of my buddies, he's a founder of a company called Sift AI. They sift through the mud of figuring out the right timing to reach out to accounts, among some other things. So like, okay, the startup got a Series C funding round, and that's a good sign. Or they have a new CIO, he probably wants to make changes. They're hiring, they're firing. And I'm curious, like, how important is timing? And also, are you just kind of really broad question, seeing any innovative tools that you think are really helpful for sales effectiveness?
Well, timing is super important, but there's nothing wrong with the fundraising announcement or the acquisition announcement or the hiring of a new role. There's nothing wrong with using those as signals, but they're so played out, man. If I made an announcement that I raised a $10 million Series A, today at 5 o'clock, my inbox would be flooded with people who are prospecting to me. Everybody else is using that. So more interesting to me is there seasonality involved with the business that you're selling to? Let's say you're selling to the education sector. If you've ever sold into education, they only buy twice a year. You know when those are? the beginning of each semester.
Mm.
That's it. Government agencies, you know when they buy? Some of them once a year in Q4. So you spend all year building relationships and pipeline and you know, kind of these different touch points and whatnot. So if you can get at somebody when you understood somehow that they're having a particular problem or an issue, and this is the right time of year, and I know that you need to do this in order to be set for this. You want X in place. That means you better start now in July, not wait till January when you actually need it. That to me shows a level of intelligence around you understand how this person's business works. And it's deeper than just, hey, Chris, I saw you hired Scott as your new VP of sales. I bet he's looking at new tools. Would love to talk to you and show us our new tool called Swift.
Yeah.
Swift, oh, not Swift. Swift. I got it.
Such a good I'm sure there's a company named Swift as well.
Well, they got free press for some reason.
Yeah, but man, this is such a good distinction to understand their business and different companies buy in cyclical ways. And I cut my teeth in sales at Oracle, so customers know to buy in Q4 for higher discounts. So the customers knew to wait to buy from us. So to that end, it's like the timing is like the new. You can only do so much with it. Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so I noticed time's flying. This is too much fun. I mean, I am just taking mental notes myself. I wish I could take actual notes. We got like 14 minutes left. Shoot, there's a lot more I want to ask you. But I wanted to ask you about the epitome of selling. Well, at least in my head, it's like a discovery call, right? You're really setting a tone for the relationship. And maybe it's not quite that's exaggerated. That's the epitome of selling. But any high-level pro tips, I'm sure you have many, on how to really maximize that discovery call. Like, what's that all about?
What is the discovery call all about? I mean, I think it's all about figuring out whether this person believes that they have a problem, and whether or not they're a good fit for you. It's about disqualification and qualification. You know, if you know that your product is really only a good fit for companies that have north of 1,000 employees, if you're having a conversation with somebody and they've got 50 employees, that's a bad deal. There's no point in signing that deal just because you want this little bit of commission, because you know what will happen? You're going to make a mess. That customer is going to get frustrated and pissed off.
Yeah.
The customer success team is going to have a nightmare trying to handle them. They're probably going to quick cancel, right? That's going to hurt your churn. That's going to ding you on like a long-term valuation of the company and stuff like that. Basically, signing a bad deal will make it harder for you to sign new good deals.
Yes.
Right. So it's about finding mutual fit. That's what it's about.
So well put. And being at a startup now, since I left Google Cloud, we're like 20 people in the US business as a global company. My first deal I brought on was a bad deal and it cost us. Like, it was not good. And so that is a real thing. And it's such a great reminder to be able to have the discipline to walk away from the bad deals. In the cloud world, you can get $10 million deals, bigger deals. I mean, not always, but right, $100,000 deals. And when I'm having a conversation with a CTO and it turns out, oh, what's your cloud spend, monthly spend? It's $500 a month or $1,000 a month. And now you should be able to eventually judge based on the business model what it might be. But that's where you're like, okay, this might not be worth the time here. So great way to put qualification. Anything you want to add on like negotiation? And then we're going to talk about leadership and what it's like to jump into leadership. But when it comes to negotiating deals, do you follow Chris Voss? Like, where do you drive inspiration from for negotiation?
I mean, I've read Chris Voss's book, of course. I really don't like to negotiate. That's where I stand.
Yeah.
I don't like to negotiate offer letters in the recruiting process. You know, even when I was interviewing places, I used to tell people, I don't like to negotiate. Whatever offer you send me, I consider to be your final offer. So it better be a good one. And that was it. I don't want to go back and forth. This is not like a Turkish flea market. Okay. We're not going back and forth, about rugs. No, that's not what I'm doing. And I don't want to do that with deals either. When I was leading sales teams, I very rarely allowed people to discount. If somebody wanted a discount, they weren't seeing the full value. That's on us. We did something wrong. Go back and start over and try again. Right. So I don't know where that would fall on the Chris Voss spectrum of negotiation, but I just really am not a fan of it. Our prices are priced for a particular reason. If you desperately need this deal to get it across and you're willing to slash the price, then you don't have a big enough fucking pipeline, man. You hosed yourself. This one deal matters too much to you.
Yeah.
And I tried to instill that philosophy and that feeling, in every organization that I've been a part of.
So you're saying don't spend your time in a Turkish flea market, just focus on value.
Not unless you find somebody straight away who you find this rug you want and you're like, how much for this? And you both agree that that's a fair price. Get in and get out. I don't want to go back and forth. It's exhausting.
Yeah. And Des, thanks for showing up. She made a comment. She doesn't discount. She refers elsewhere. So Des also, on top of tech, she's like a top-notch massage therapist. You call her a queen of self-care. And there
you go. She probably understands the value of what she does and the value of her time.
Yeah.
So if she, is a massage therapist and she charges $150 for a 60-minute massage and I show up and I'm like, I'll give you 90. It's like insulting, right? She's probably sitting to herself thinking, I would literally rather go to lunch and have a cocktail with my friends than do this job for, 40% off or whatever. That's how I feel at this point in time.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of tech companies from all over the world. I'm not cheap. I feel like I know what I'm good at. I've done this for a really long time. And I have people try to, get discounts from me all the time. And I just tell them, I'm not your guy then, I guess. This is what it is. I'm good at what I do. The ROI is clear and simple. You're not seeing it. Guess I didn't do a good job. Here's a couple other people you might want to talk to. Because I'd rather go fucking surf or go play golf than work with somebody who's going to haggle me. And those people who haggle you, by the way, are often the worst customers and clients for you to have. They're the ones who pester you nonstop. They ask for things. They always complain about things. The best customers seem to be the people who put a lot of value in what you do, understand the price, pay full price. They get it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize you like golf. Next time you're in Naples, Florida, where I was born and raised, my dad works at one of the most exclusive golf clubs. It's on the house. So definitely let me know, man. Naples National is awesome. My dad claims it. He's like, it's like Augusta National. But anyways, gosh, we're running out of time. There's more. We got like 7 minutes, but I'm going to want to have you talk a little bit about your Surf and Sales Summit. But before that, what's it take to transition just super high level to becoming a leader? What's different about being a leader versus an individual contributor?
Well, you lose control of your own paycheck. That's the number one biggest difference. Your success has very little to do with your performance. And that is a hard pill to swallow. You will see that you care more than a lot of other people do. And you'll want them to succeed sometimes more than they want to succeed, right? So you have to somehow find more joy in helping other people along in their journey than you get from doing all these things yourself. Well, a lot of people get wrapped up in moving, up in their career into leadership roles because they think it's bigger title, bigger pay, and that kind of stuff. You actually often go backwards every step of the way. When you go from being a successful AE to a sales manager, you're more than likely taking a pay cut for a particular amount of time. And when you go from a sales manager to a sales director, you often take a little bit of a pay cut. When you leave one role as a VP of sales for another one, you're taking a pay cut. You got to rebuild a pipeline from scratch, right? Oh, it is a super stressful role. You're the first head that's going to get chopped when things go wrong. So you have to be willing to take on all of the burden of that responsibility because you really, really care about your team and about helping other people in their journey achieve their goals. And that level of selflessness is really difficult for some people. And that's why they don't make it ultimately as a leader. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. More people should probably stay in individual contributor roles. You know, we'd have a lot less bad leaders out there probably if that was the case.
So I noticed some testimonials on your site for your Untethered course that helps people, break beyond the W-2 to make more money through side hustles and create freedom financially. And I noticed my friend Tom Alema, who I've had on the channel and who I have a lot of respect for, gave you a testimonial and spoke very highly of the program. And I could tell, just speaking with you, it must be incredible. Can you talk about what it means to become untethered? What does that mean to you? And then also a little bit about that course.
Yeah, it just means that you're no longer completely dependent on your one stream of income, whatever your full-time job is, right? If you lose your job today, you're in trouble. You got no money coming in.
Yep.
It's a very scary proposition in 2023 when companies are laying people off left and right. Startups go under. Big, huge corporations like Amazon lay off 30,000 people.
Yeah.
Banks fold up shop. People can't get their money out. Venture capital dries up. It's terrifying out there. So I don't understand at all how it would be a good strategy to put all of my eggs and all of my trust in this one company, this one founder. I have a particular set of skills. I need to find ways to monetize those skills outside of what I do right here. Or I have passions in these other areas of my life. I would love to figure out ways to make money doing those kinds of things. Your friend you were talking about is a massage therapist. Maybe she's also an account executive, right? You can marry those two things together. What if she put on a retreat that had to do with massage therapy and yoga and this type of stuff, found like a killer location and brought people down there to talk about sales and about selling and about prospecting, and about closing. And then the other half of the day, you dealt with this holistic health kind of stuff. You don't think there's a market for that?
Yeah.
I guarantee there's a market for that. That's exactly what surf and sales is.
Boom.
I like to go surf. I've got a lot of experience in sales. I've got a lot of experience in business and in leadership. So what I decided to do was take 20 people down to Costa Rica 3 times a year.
Pura vida.
Talk about sales, talk about leadership, talk about business. And the other half of the day, we surf. And we have surf lessons for people who've never gone before. And we eat good food and we have good cocktails and we just hang out and learn and grow and inspire each other. So being untethered is just that. It's saying, no, I will not put the entirety of my safety and comfort and financial security in the hands of you, Mr. or Mrs. Corporate Employee. I don't trust you because you exist to make the company better, bigger. You don't exist to make Scott bigger and better. They'll fire me at a moment's notice.
Dang.
If they start to go the wrong direction. That's their prerogative.
Yeah.
But what I do on my own time is my business. So whether I want to drive an Uber at night or bartend at night or run a sales conference on the side, right? Or write a book or run a podcast, that's none of their business as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing while I'm working for them. And if you do it enough and you diversify enough, what you'll find is over here on this side, this is your W-2 income that you're making from your normal job. Okay. Over here is your side hustle income. And what happens is this side hustle income starts creeping up. And at some point, it matches what you're making from your normal job. And at that point in time, you have the ability to cut the W-2 and go all in on yourself, right? And sometimes when you go all in yourself, you actually end up having much, much more upside than you would staying in your current role. That's what the untethered blueprint is all about. And that's what I teach you.
Wow. What an inspiring note to end the conversation on. I know we're just hitting an hour. We started a couple minutes late, but I've got a couple of calls to action for the audience to check out, your different resources, your course, your Surf and Sales Summit. But any thoughts on what's next for you, Scott, in terms of your vision and what you're building?
Yeah, the thing that I'm focused on right now is building a community of sellers and sales leaders and creators, and trying to help them untether themselves and find new and interesting ways to grow and build businesses. So it's called GTM United. We launched about 7 weeks ago. I'm at about $85,000 in ARR already. Got about 170 members participating. And so I'm finding ways to do trainings 3 or 4 times a week on a lot of different topics with them, have guest trainers come in. So we've got a lot of live events. We've got a lot of content. We've got a lot of sharing of information. We have offline and virtual events happening. And we are finding ways to mobilize the community and turn them into a global referral network for other businesses. So I'm taking the community and helping them find new and interesting ways to get paid and make money. It's called GTM United, gtmunited.com.
So guys, I'm going to link that in the description of this video. Check out gtmunited.com to grow in community and learn quite a bit. That's your doggo in the background?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's they say it's not over till the dog barks. So
yeah.
Great note to end on. But guys, I'm going to link that. Check out the book. I'm going to link it, Addicted to the Process, that Scott wrote. I'm going to check it out myself. Sounds inspiring. Check out the Untethered course. Subscribe to the Untethered newsletter. And check out the Surf and Sales Summit coming up. I believe it's November 27th through December 1st. One of these days, I'm going to try it myself. Scott, this has been incredible. I'm truly inspired personally, and I could see in the comments from the folks who showed up, and we got 10 people live now, that they got so much out of it. So I really appreciate your time, Scott.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everybody for joining. We'll see you soon.
Cheers to your success in tech sales and life. Happy selling, happy living, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.